Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, again, and welcome. Thank you for joining us for this webinar session. My name is Fernando, and I come with the Region 9 Head Start Association, and I'm happy to be your webinar host today. So feel free to contact me via the chat option of Zoom with any logistical questions you may have regarding video, audio, or any connection issues. Just so you're aware, due to the current situation with COVID-19, our webinar platform, Zoom, is experiencing a lot of traffic. So if throughout the session today you experience any lag or connection issues, we apologize in advance. However, as a registered attendee, you will have the ability to log out of the call and go back in, and hopefully that will solve your audio issues. So if you do have any issues re-entering the session, send us an email at the email address located on our website, and we will do our very best to get you back on the session. Just so you know, the webinar session will also be recorded and will be made available for on-demand consumption within 24 hours, hopefully sooner. You will find this recording up on our YouTube channel, which can be found by visiting the COVID-19 page on our website. Don't worry, I will share the link to our website throughout the session via the chat, so you have that handy. Resources tied to these sessions, such as the PowerPoint slides, the certificate of participation, can also be found on the COVID-19 page on our website. We encourage your participation, so feel free to send us your questions and or comments via the Q&A option, and we will do our very best to answer them live. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our topic. I said goodbye and you said hello. Strategies for teachers to support parent-child interactions at home during COVID-19. And your speaker today will be Mary-Margaret Gardiner from Teachstone. Thank you, and take it away, Mary-Margaret.
Uh-oh. There we go. Sorry, I was getting a little too ahead of myself here, folks. I'd like to start by letting my colleague Yvette say hello to you, and then I'll jump back on.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mary-Margaret. Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yvette Sanchez-Fuentes. I serve as a senior advisor at Teachstone and also am a member of the Region 9 board. I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for joining us this morning. And I'm watching the chats as they're coming in, and they're clearly folks from all over the country. So I just feel like this is great, especially in this time when we're all isolating at home and really need those connections. So it's really my pleasure today to introduce Mary-Margaret. And I'm really looking forward to this session, and I'm sure that you all will get a lot out of it as well. And just to say that, you know, regardless of the circumstances that you all find yourselves in, please know that myself, Mary-Margaret, and the whole team at Teachstone are here to support and to serve you in any way that we can. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. I also want to thank Ed and Fernando and the whole team at the Region 9 Association for all the work that they're doing. So let me just share with you very quickly, Mary-Margaret works as a special projects team member for Teachstone. She's been involved in the early childhood community for over 35 years, driven by her passion to support the teachers who work with our most valuable citizens, our kids. She joined Teachstone in 2010 and has been a class convert since the days before Teachstone was even started. And most importantly, Mary-Margaret loves to play in her rock band and spend time with her family and her horse. And so I will turn it over to Mary-Margaret.
Thank you so much, Yvette. And thank you for that introduction. I do love the class, and it's actually been more than 36 years now. I started out in 1976, so even longer. I think I must have written that when I first came to Teachstone. But I have had a lot of experience working with Head Start and also as a director, a teacher, a coach, worked very extensively with a quality rating improvement system in the state of Virginia, and have also served on the AAYC boards, both locally and nationally. So I'm really happy to be sharing this with you. I've been talking to people out in the field, and there's a great sense of grief and loss for teachers and children and even parents, because a lot of you did not know the last time you saw your children that that was going to be the last time you saw them. And so this webinar, we hope, is going to support you in thinking about how you're doing, but also thinking of ways that you can support the families that I'm sure that you miss and that you probably are still in touch with. At least I hope so. So we're going from this routine where the children are in their classrooms and you know, you're at that point in the year, it's March, and everything's going well. The kids know the routine, they know you, they're really growing, and they're able to really get involved in their play, and all of a sudden the routine changes. So much is going on for parents too. They're really trying to figure out what the heck to do with these kids. Some of them are still working at home, and then they've got their children as well. So, you know, that not being able to say goodbye is definitely something that we understand, that you spent so much time building relationships. And I bet you miss your coworkers too. I know I do. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being just great, and a scale of 1 is, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. How are you doing today? Can you type into the Q&A? I'd love to hear from you, and I'm so excited to see so many people online from all over the country. I see 5s, I see 3s. That's great. I stressed, absolutely, Mariana. I'm glad that Brenda's feeling like, Brenda, I feel like I might know your name. Stressed out, yeah. There's it's such a pause in how we're feeling, and you know, we're trying to do so many things. One thing that I have found for me personally is with the isolation that it's given me time to relax a little bit and think of the things that are the most important. But I know you're missing those kids and your families. So let's think, the next question is here. What's one thing that might be helpful for you to get from our time today? Any expectations? Lots of 5s and 3s there. Ooh, some 8s. This is great. Looks like people doing pretty well with the, you're kind of on the mid-range of the scale. Some of you on the high. I know, missing the kids for sure, Sheila. Some days are better than others. Absolutely. Doing good today. And I think every day maybe we're on a different place on the scale too. So resources for parents, how to help families deal with the stress of children home all day, absolutely. And some things, resources to send to parents, and that's great. So we know that in our classrooms, we know that research has showed us time and time again that emotional support for children predicts better social and academic development and lower stress amount around children. So when we talk about our classrooms with the class lens, we're looking at being able to lower that stress, especially for our children that we see in our Head Start population, who are often challenged in many different ways. So we're trying to keep them feeling safe and supported and connected. And so we want to communicate this for the parents as well, because when your brain is in stress, as you all know, it's kind of hard to make decisions and regulate your behavior. So I've sort of put this strategies on how we can help our families and linked it to our 3 domains in the pre-K tool: emotional support, classroom, I called it home, organization, and then supporting learning, which would be the instructional support. So I'm going to ask you to chat into the Q&A, not the chat box, because I see 600 chats in there. I'm not going to be able to monitor that, but I know Fernandez is. So I'm going to ask you a few questions and then share some resources from our end on how we think we might be able to support those families. So we know that connecting is really important. And for some children and parents, this is a rare opportunity for them to actually have time together where they can kind of fill the emotional cup. But I do know that some of us are a little bit worried about some of our children, the parents also being stressed. And how are we going to support the parents and also let them relax a little bit? They're not preschool teachers, and we don't expect them to teach the children preschool. What we want them to do is to connect and be resource to that child in terms of um, helping them feel safe and secure and wanted. A woman that I know that lives out in Colorado has a little son who, now that she's home working, constantly is spinning his fingers in her hair, like constantly, and always draped on her. And I was talking to her about it, and I'm like, you just have to understand this is a chance that he's never had to really have you at home, and he's just filling up that cup of love, and pretty soon hopefully he'll get past that and be able to move on. But he's really showing a need for security and trust, because the children are also out of the ordinary, and they're feeling stressed as well. Leliani, I'm going to mess up your name. Can you recommend a developmentally appropriate routine for parents to do at home? Yes, so we do have some resources that we'll be typing into the chat box, and then we will also provide for you on this. And then at our Teachstone website, we do have some really nice resources there for helping families, scheduling, planning, talking about the virus, really, and we're adding to that all the time. I'll also be doing some Facebook Live presentations to support teachers as well. So if you're not on our Facebook community, it's the class community on Facebook, and just feel free to join us and type in and join in some of our live feedback and presentations. So you're thinking about connections that how you connected with your children during the school year. They're coming in, getting to know you, getting to know each other. What are some things that you do in your classroom that you could share with the parents? So some are saying, I can only connect versus email, which has been challenging. Some parents have sent photos. I love that. And what they're doing with the children daily. This has been great. And I've been able to send photos from the school year. That, Nicolette, I love that idea. And that was something I was going to suggest is, photos from your, the days of field trips, or, if you're journaling in your classroom, or doing, if you're keeping records of what's going on, sending them pictures of them. And I bet they miss their friends too. The Facebook group is called the class community on Facebook. Creating a similar routine to classroom. Yeah, so we want to, it's important that we have a natural flow to the day, and I think that helps parents as well, because a lot of them are not used to having the kids home all day. And so it doesn't have to be the school schedule, but we know that we want to have a balance of active time and quiet time, outdoor time if you can get it, and that it's predictable. So it doesn't mean that 9 o'clock everybody has to wash the dishes and go play with toys, but it does mean that there is that predictable flow to the day, and that's really, really helpful. Talk to them, because they're going to what are they going to do when they're cooking or dressing them? Yes, so that's another thing that you can do is have those conversations and let your parents know how important it is to really listen to their kids. And this again is an opportunity to really get to know how their kids are thinking and feeling, which we of course connect to our regard for child perspective, right? Where we're really eliciting how they see the world. I think the parents might find a lot of really interesting things about how their kids see the world. Family activity information, we'll definitely get some of that to you in our links. And reading together with a parent and child, absolutely, that is the most wonderful time. And there's even, if you have access to YouTube or Facebook, there are children's authors reading stories. I know Eric Carle was reading The Very Hungry Caterpillar the other day, and those are things that you can also share with the parents so that they can watch that video with their kids and listen to the story. Or telling stories or making up stories is also really wonderful. Validating and responsiveness. Vanessa, I love that you said that. We want to validate the children's feelings and also the parents' feelings, right? So really just giving them that open forum to talk about how they're afraid or how they're tired, or, oh my gosh, I can't believe my kid's spinning fingers in my hair over and over again. We need to validate that because we know how hard it is when we're in a classroom and we've got 20 kids and everybody wants our attention. That's stressful, but it's different for the parents because that need for connection is probably even greater with all of the change. Sarah says, how to help parents see the value of taking a moment to connect in a meaningful way, and how is how can they help them with distress? Absolutely. Even if it's just a hug or helping the parents know just to repeat what the child says or try to name the feelings, that's a really good way to validate those feelings and help the children understand what is going on. And maybe if the parents even validate how they're feeling, and doing some of that self-talk would also be really helpful for them. Some people are sending newsletters, emails, pictures, and texts. I love that. I talk to the parents asking if they're needed and how are they doing, and that's so important. You all are the front line for parent education. I've believed this for a very long time. The parents trust you and they look to you as the person that can help them. So they may not, if they have a social worker, if they have somebody coming in, a counselor, they may not trust that person, but they do trust you. And so this is a unique opportunity to provide support on a much more individualized basis with those parents than you might do in a class meeting or something like that. Display pictures of the children and what they do daily in the classroom. That's a great one. I do Mighty Minutes and Ready Rosie, Ready Rosie, and teach them to see how they're doing. So I love that. So you're really infusing some of your normal routine and that connection routine in letting the parents have that as well. We started each day by asking the kids to tell me how you feel today. So we're asking the parents to check in with the kids and discuss their feeling. I love that. Songs, so providing songs, the lyrics to songs, the finger plays, those are really good. Sending home recipes for Play-Doh. I saw a really good one today. You take cornstarch, 1 cup of cornstarch and a half a cup of hair conditioner, and you mix it together, and it's like Play-Doh, but it's not sticky, and it's very tactily satisfying. And then you can, of course, add some color to it as well. Keep those small chunks of child with undivided attention. So when we give them that undivided attention, even if we have to go and do a load of laundry or answer a phone call or be on a Zoom call. Did you know that in December there were 10 million Zoom users, as now there's over 200 million? That's unbelievable. So we know that parents are juggling that need to work at home. I love the Zoom videos, Facebook Messenger, absolutely. Asking how they're doing. You all are fabulous. No wonder you miss your children so much, because I can see that you spend so much time thinking about them and connecting with them over the school year. So thank you for that. Let's think about that organized experience, that predictable experience. And some of you have already talked a little bit about this, but what strategies do you use to get the children engaged? How did you plan your day during the school year to keep the children busy and occupied, with purpose? How do we engage them and draw them more richly into the routines or the activities? How did you do that at school? And then what would you share with your parents about that? Oh, there's so many great answers in this question and answers. We started a classroom Facebook page. That's wonderful. Videos, us reading, drawing, making Play-Doh, doing music and movement. And what a great opportunity just for the kids, but having the parents share in that as well I love that. What a wonderful idea. Taking care of your emotional being when you're being a parent. Absolutely. So repeating what the children say, getting on their level, of course, is really important. We've talked a little bit about have activities that the teachers are interested in, a schedule. So even helping, like you could put what your daily schedule is, just the flow. I wouldn't worry too much about time, but have parents think of how they could plug their day into that as well. Create a routine at home, helping them make that schedule. So even if you could send a template, you could have quiet time, play time, and really encourage them to give their children lots of opportunity for open-ended play. They don't need as many things. And we have this on our Teachstone website. There's a page in there about how to use daily routine to encourage your children to learn more about the routine, and also to help at home, and then how you can actually link that to class. I'm doing a little self-talk while I'm moving my mouse over here so I can see what you're saying. Yeah, definitely with that. Incorporate yoga to help engage children. what a great idea. Now I have 2 dogs here with me, and whenever I try to do yoga on the floor, they try to do it with me. So hopefully the kids can join in with the parents. In January, we began a mystery book bag where children pick their favorite book from home and share at school. And during the group time, the child and I would share the clues. So I love that. So even like scavenger hunts and things like that might be fun too. Um, Taking care of your emotional right during a disaster is something for sure. My daughter is a nanny, and she hasn't been able to see the little girl that she works with. And so the mom has wanted Emily, as my daughter, to do lessons for that she's missing, and she wants this 3-year-old to write her name, and we know that that's not always appropriate. So Emily and I did a little brainstorming, and in our neighborhood, people have been having their kids paint rocks, and some of them are very elaborate, and some of them are just, you know, finger paint, but they're placing them all around the neighborhood, and kids find them and take pictures of them. So I suggested that we get the little girl to write her alphabet on the blocks, and then take the rocks, and then take those rocks and place them on things in the house that start with that letter. And that has been really, really engaging for her. Planning the day with a routine. I love that. Can you give strategies on how to incorporate other family members other than parents? We're realizing that a lot of our parents are still working and leaving their children with grandparents. That's really interesting. And of course, somebody's got to work, right? There's a lot of people that are still out there working, and I worry so much about them. So grandparents probably need that same support. So sending some resources to them, sending maybe some books from the center or from the school might be helpful. If you can get on and just do a little tutorial on how to redirect behavior. You all are certainly capable of grabbing you know, a FaceTime or doing a Zoom video. If you don't know how to do Zoom, you can do QuickTime, or just record yourself on your phone and send files of you just talking to the parents and the grandparents and sharing the same things that you would with the parents. Let me see here. All right, so it sounds like you've got some great ideas on that end as well. It's getting around 1:22, so I'm going to go ahead and move to the next slide. I want to leave about 15 minutes at the end for specific questions. So I call instructional support engaging. However, what we really want to do is think, how do we encourage exploration? How do we allow the parents to let their children play? How did you get the children to explore materials? What were some open-ended household items that your families could use to encourage learning? And some open-ended sentences that you could share with your parents and the grandparents as they're learning to play. Somebody says, how can you balance work, teenage children, and preschool age children? I'm working from home. That's a tough one for sure. Can your teenage children help with the preschool children? And the other thing is, I know that work is really hard because we're out of a routine, and it takes a lot of self-control to work from home. And so you need to have a schedule too. One of the things that I do every single morning is I get up and I have a routine, and I get up, I walk the dogs, I make my breakfast, I make my coffee, and then I, you know, clean up the house, and I dress as if I'm going to work every single day. It really is important. There are some days when I might be wearing pajama pants. I'm not today, and a regular top, because I spend most of my day on Zoom meetings, as you may know. Help children choose what they like. Definitely. Play with them. We told families to put out Tupperware lids and let the children try to match. The other thing is maybe match those socks that never ever matched. But I did see a YouTube video of somebody making a mask with socks too, which I thought was pretty cool. Yeah, so how about some open-ended questions that you might, so like those noticing questions. What are some things that you might share with your parents to get them to pause and reflect on where their children are going, so that we're not doing the rote recall kind of questions, but more that open-ended exploration? What are some things that you might be able to share with your parents to get them to be more encouraging? Yeah, activities don't need to be toys. Absolutely. Give time for the children to answer. That is the most important thing, because we really can't, when we are just firing questions at children, especially if they're what color, what number, that we know that we lose the children with that, right? So having the time to really reflect on that, and that for the parents, this is a rare opportunity where they really have the time and space to listen to those children. And those of us who are still working from home and have the children, if you could carve out some time where you just have kid time and that routine time, finding what works for everybody in your family is certainly going to be something that I think everybody is really struggling with trying to figure out how to do. Expanding children's answers. So, talking about taking that, we call that the contingent response in quality of feedback and also in language modeling. So listening to what the children say and then responding as their natural conversational partner. And having the parents write down the funny things that the children say, or even have a reflection at the end of the day, or maybe at the end of the week, if you're checking in with them and saying, hey, what worked, what didn't work? And if you can get a parent group, we have the group me and the group chats, might be a great way to set up some conversations with them as well. Stephanie says she needs to find her own routine. It really does help, believe me. Ask them if they can include the children and help with them cleaning, what they're watching on TV or tablet. And, if we can limit that screen time, that is something really important, though I know it happens, but maybe watching along and monitoring the amount of screen time and limiting it to 20 minutes or so over the day. And so they're not just having long periods. Years ago, I was working for a nonprofit before I came to Teachstone, and one of my jobs was checking USDA menus to see if they, met all the criteria. And I had a 2-year-old daughter at the time. And one day I was just under the gun to get everything done. And I had her in front of the TV and I lost track of time. And all of a sudden her behavior just went, she was terrible. She was being a typical 2-year-old, but really, getting into trouble, writing on the walls. And I'm like, I have not spent any time with her all day. I've had her in front of the TV. So shame on me. And I realized that I really needed to stop every hour or so and give her my undivided attention. Open-ended questions regards the activity and what they're doing at home, cooking, brushing their teeth, setting a table, having children plan what they might need to set the table with, letting them do chores. Children love that autonomy, right? So that's such a big piece of regard for children's perspective when we're really letting them try to do things, and they can be helpers and they like helping. And you know what? It might help you too. They may not do it perfectly, but they can definitely add. The nature paper, now that's a good one. Paper towel tubes. You can do a lot of things with paper towel tubes and toilet paper tubes if you can find it. But those are great things as well. Taking a nature walk. And I do live in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, right outside of Charlottesville, Virginia. And I have to tell you, Virginia in the spring is unbelievably gorgeous. And that you can do socially distancing yourself. And I've been taking long walks and really enjoying the solitude of having time to think. So I encourage you to do that, and also with the parents. Describe everything that the child is doing. Maria, you are so spot on. That self-talk and or the parallel talk is huge. And we feel so awkward doing it in the classroom, but boy, does that build the language. And when you have those, I notice that you're playing with the blocks. I notice that you're stacking the blocks. I notice that you got out all the black socks. Those are things that really validate that you're noticing the child and also giving them extended language. We ask a question of the day and we ask the parents to tell us the kids' answers. They make us all laugh. That's great. And that's great if you can share that across there too. I know that makes you feel connected as well. How do we get parents to limit their screen time? That's tough, right? Because everybody's on their cell phone all the time. If you can share with them any of the recommendations and the dangers of too much screen time, or if you do, if they don't want to read that or look at that, you might have them chart behaviors, because I would bet you that they're starting to see some behavior issues with children that spend a lot of time on screen time. And they may be saying, hey, I can't, they're starting to run around, or I can't get them to sit still, or they're not eating, or whatever it is. Have that link that to screen time. So, it's a behavior management thing. So we look at the behaviors that are bothering us, and then we say what happened before and what happened after. And they may be able to see a pattern in screen time and how that's affecting their children. Vanessa says she provides handouts with hands-on activities. I love it. Science in the kitchen. how to support language development. This is super. So you're using all of that class language, and doesn't that really beautifully link to what we see at home? Because class is everywhere. I recently lost my husband to dementia, but I spent a lot of time on the dementia floor. And I found that class really works with people with dementia as well. You know, being reflective, connecting, validating where they're coming from, and meeting their needs. And those needs vary all the time. So class really is everywhere. And I guess maybe that's why I'm such a convert. The kids do online school. They spend 2 hours a day on a tablet or doing schoolwork. So Penny, you're asking, should they still have letdown time? Absolutely. But I would try to space it out. Maybe, you know, when you might need some quiet time, or they've had some activity, something more vigorous, playtime outdoors or something like that. I understand that kids are also being homeschooled, the older children especially, and that's got to be some stress on them as well. How can we get the parents to understand the TV isn't helping the challenging behavior? Yeah, so again, I think if you have them talk about what the challenging behavior is and maybe come up with a little behavior chart. So you might say 9 to 10, 10 to 11, like have times during the day, and list the behaviors that are challenging for them, and make a hash mark every time they see a certain behavior happening. And then that really gives you a lot of evidence, because they're going to start linking that TV time to challenging behavior. So audio is in and out, hard to follow. Can you put that into the chat box, Lois? I think that's something probably with the Zoom platform. We do have about 1,000 people on this call right now. Can I provide more science experiments? I think that I could do that, but I think you could probably find that online if you just Google science experiments. But you know, there's nothing better than a tub of soapy water and some sponges, or giving some kids wet washcloths to go clean the house, or organizing socks by color or by size, folding towels, thinking of ways that they can go around and like cooking is a science, right? Cooking has a lot to do with science. So maybe making a menu, thinking about what they need to get from the grocery store, how are they going to cook that meal, doing a lot of prediction, and producing and planning around cooking a meal or planning an activity for the family. Just scrolling here a little bit. The chicken and ducks. So somebody has chickens and ducks in their house. I love it, where they can let the kids play with them. A friend of mine up the street, I haven't seen her in a couple months because I've been locked up for a couple months here in Virginia. We put the stay-at-home order in pretty early, but she had baby chickens, and so she sends me pictures of them every day, and it's really fun to see that. We have low-income families with several children home. How can we support them when we can only communicate with a phone call or an email? That's tough. I think frequency is going to certainly be that. Can you send them a letter? Can you send them some pictures through the mail? Maybe one group of teachers recently went out and got in a caravan and drove by the kid's house and waved at them. There's also something going on in some of the neighborhoods here where I live, where people are putting teddy bears and stuffed animals out on the lawn, and they're having like stuffed animal parties, and that's really fun because the kids can, that can be a concept development and a planning, producing, and brainstorming activity. Which animals should we put, how should we dress them, how can we catch people's eyes? All of those things would be really fun, and ways to connect with your children. 15 minutes a day to do academic work. Put out engaging materials to create. Empty boxes, toilet paper. Yep, open-ended is the way to go. And when they've given them that opportunity to manipulate and use materials, give the parents some notice, like teach them to just say, I notice, and notice what it is. That's going to lead to some conversations for sure. You guys are doing a wonderful job. So these are ways to stay connected that I have seen some of you already talk about, but this was a great little text that someone sent, and it says, it's okay. Do you have a couple minutes? I rocked child to sleep last night and he cried about wanting you. Right now he's crying because he said he misses you. Is there any way we could see your face and hear your voice? I said, sure, of course, I'm about to go face to face, but I can talk for a minute. Okay, you've got this. I have him distracted with breakfast. The last few days, I've asked him what he's feeling. He always says sad. I think you were his other person he looked forward to. And he feels completely hurt by not seeing you. He cries a lot more. It makes me so sad. You know, the parents are sad, you're sad, and the kids are sad. So any resources you can around feelings, like you could see if local libraries could send virtual books if they happen to have that opportunity, or books around feelings. Um, or giving those children as much tactile play, water play, Play-Doh, sand, walks, dancing, um, moving heavy objects. I used to do that with my 2-year-olds. I taught 2-year-olds for a long time. And when they were really getting kind of squirrely, if we had a run of bad weather or something, I would have them help me move the furniture. So we would move chairs around, or I would wrap up the thick phone books. And I know a lot of you in California, well, who has phone books anymore? Anyway, heavy objects that you can wrap in paper and have them move it from one place to the other. You know, physical is also really helpful to help. Dancing, moving, yoga, putting on relaxing music is also helpful. Having them do deep breathing, belly breaths. We do have some resources on the Teachstone website too, on a platform that we call My Teachstone. And that does include some Sesame Street videos that are also really helpful for parents and teachers. I'm going to egg my child's house. Oh, hide eggs. Back in the day, egg your house meant different. But yeah, Easter eggs, because oh my gosh, Easter's coming, and those of us who are celebrating that are probably feeling pretty sad about that too. But maybe the kids could decorate their windows or their patios or their porches or their yards with things around Easter. Um, and or maybe you know, dye eggs and go hide them in the neighborhood, and let kids find them, of course socially distance as well. You people are amazing, for sure. So we've got video chats, video links. If you don't, you know, if you've got your phones and you've got, you can record yourself, you can email that to them as well, or you can do FaceTime if that's a possibility. I don't know what Androids have, but I imagine they have something like that. Read a book out loud to them and send them a tape of your voice. Send them an actual letter in the mail. How exciting is that? Nobody does that anymore. Or maybe put a self-addressed stamped envelope in that letter and have them send it back to you, a drawing or something that they're thinking of. Sending photos from the classroom, emails. And so you've mentioned quite a few things that you're doing. Is there anything else that you're doing that we haven't talked about yet? Parents live in apartments, like 1 or 2 bedrooms with no yard or balcony. Any ideas what they can do to help their young one? That's a toughie, right? So I would think that I did see yesterday on a walk the windows of one of the, so I live in a multi-use community, so we've got single family homes and apartments, and I live in an apartment. But we had, they had put pictures in the walls and in the windows and showed like photographs, and it was a whole thing about the Easter Bunny, and they put stickers on that. So maybe they could decorate a part of their apartment, or maybe the door might be something they could do as well. And I hope that they're getting some time outside. The other day I went around to families' homes to drop off educational packets, and most of the kids were so happy to see me. Someone shared with me that the kids were running up to her and she couldn't touch them, and it was heartbreaking, but they were able to have the window up and touch hands in the window, which was just beautiful. I call parents weekly, have a Zoom parent town hall, and this week started Zoom classroom music. Love it. Music and movement, yoga, and circle time. Print out fun facts about ocean animals, find a story, purchase a whole catfish, and have the child describe the smell. So yeah, giving you can have some thematic ideas. So maybe you could brainstorm some ways with the parents of finding out what the kids are interested in. Maybe they could start a project. A friend of mine has 2 8-year-old boys. They're twins, and they built a chicken coop. So that's been taking about 3 weeks, and they had to plan it. They had to do the measurement. They had to figure out, you know, where they were going to get the chickens. All of those things are happening. So it was a long-term activity. I like, I'm so glad Gladys, my grandmother's name was Gladys. I don't see a lot of people named Gladys, so I'm glad you're going to do that. Yeah, sending out a letter. And it doesn't have to be much, right? Just a little something. YouTube links to music and movement, absolutely. Oh, Greg and Steve, those guys are great. Uh, always fun to see them. What do you regard in the regards to the frequency of communication with parents and in what form? Texting, calling, daily, weekly? Amy, I think that's really up to you, what your capacity is, and then also how responsive the parents are. We don't certainly want to inundate them, but there may be some parents that need less contact and some that need more. And so you might think of that. One thing I would suggest as well, and I used to do this activity when I was a CDA instructor, is I'd have the teachers write down the name of every child in their class. And they would always forget one or two. And the one or two that they forgot were probably the children that asked for the least. So when you're thinking of your kids, the ones that are going to come to mind are probably the ones that have the most attention seeking. Those may be the ones that you want to spend more time reaching out to the parents, but don't forget those children who may not be quite as demonstrative, and send them a little something as well. But really be gauging like how much attention the children take in your classroom. Those are the ones that you probably want to reach out a little more often to the parents. People forget that they can use mail service. Yeah. The post office is a great place. And oh my gosh, the postal workers, I went today and mailed some packages to people that I missed, just little care packages, a little weird, like a baby doll and some things. But they're so wonderful. And, delivering mail is hazardous. So I am so appreciative of all of the people out there, the nurses, the CNAs. There are teachers that are still working in childcare centers that are still open, and I worry about them a lot. Most school districts are offering free meals. Yep, take the lunch to a park, find an empty area to have a picnic. Children love to play with sticks, rocks, and dirt. Absolutely. I think that a rock and a stick and an empty box are probably the best toys you could ever have. What a wonderful group of people that you are. So this is our official question and answer time. You've been asking and chatting in. If you'd like to ask me anything more specifically, I'm not sure, Yvette, if you were able to put the chats in the chat box, some of the resources that we were mentioning. However, I'm hoping that it is, and I've sent them to Fernandez so that he can put them in the link for this video as well. Please visit the Teachstone website. It's www.teachstone.org. I'm sorry, .com. .com. And if you go there, as you scroll down, there's a little button, red rectangle that says the COVID response, and you can click on that. And then below that, there are a lot of free resources all around the things that you're specifically asking for. There's one document there that's called the class at home. So, making sure that those parents have those conversations, being physically affectionate, acknowledging their children's emotions, having those clear behavioral expectations and a routine, obviously, are all things that you know about, but we want to share those with the parents. Stephanie, you asked, how can you sign up for Teachstone? So it's a website. Just go www.teachstone.teachstone, Teachstone, it's right there on that screen, .com. And there's tons of free resources in there. We have blogs and video blogs and resources again to my Teachstone, and then also some documents that we have put up right on the landing page that you can use, talking to the children about coronavirus, planning things at home that will include like how to schedule. I did one on how to schedule a day, which might be helpful for your parents, like things to think about as they plan their day. Yes, if you don't have a certification. So again, that is our landing page for the website. If you do have a certification or have taken a class training, you may have a login that you can get information on as well, but you do not need to pay anything for these resources. They're all free. And all you have to do is just go to that webpage, click on resources. There's also a chat box at the bottom where you can live chat into our amazing customer support team. So if you have any specific questions or you're looking for a particular resource, they may be able to guide you to that as well. What are some other ways to help kids who may have disabilities in our classrooms? I know I have a coworker who has a young child who is deaf and sends her sign pictures and asking for how her days are. Oh, that's so sweet. So yeah, and we do worry about those kids with disabilities because they can sometimes have challenging behaviors or special challenges or needs. And I would encourage you to think about the accommodations that you make in your classroom and share that with the parents. But the class, we do have a white paper on working with children with special needs. So there may be some pieces of that that might be helpful for your parents as well. At the end of the webinar, I believe you'll get your certificate. If you chat that into the chat box, Alejandrina, you can get the answer to that. But I know there will be some certificates at the end. So again, if you see on the screen here to the right, you can see our logo Teachstone. So if you go www.teachstone.com, or if you just type Teachstone into your search bar, it will come up with the landing page. And at the top of the landing page, it will have resources at the top. And there's also, if you scroll down a little bit past some of the photographs that are on that page to the COVID response, underneath that, there's like a little red rectangle that you can click, and then beneath that, I think there's 6 or 8 articles and handouts that you can use without even having to go much further to download. Oh, puzzles are great. Do you know if there's any resource for home-based programs that we can use? So we do have resources for family child care providers. So I find that the class works in family child care providers as well. And so that connection and using those resources that I mentioned should be appropriate for our family providers as well. Check my time here. So have a few minutes if there's anything else. I want to commend you for being on this call and taking time away. I'm overwhelmed by the amount of people that joined us. That means that there's a really huge need out there, and we are so saddened by this crazy pandemic and how it's disrupted families and relationships, not just with your kids and your families, but with your coworkers. And know that you are missed, and know that you are valued. I think one of the silver linings from this pandemic is that parents really understand the value of your work now, probably on a level that they never have before. What an opportunity. And I urge you to take care of yourselves emotionally and physically too, because you're going back. You're going back and they're coming back. So think about some self-care and being able to really, this is a chance for you to reflect on what's going well in your classrooms, what's not going well. This is a time that you probably never have to really think through the day and what's working well in your classroom. Is there a certain time of day that's difficult, and why would that be? Is there something that your children really love? And think about how you're going to, when they do come back, how are you going to reorient them to the classroom routine? Because they're going to have had some really positive experiences, maybe some not so positive experiences. And so they're really going to need your emotional support even more when they do come back. I'm just scrolling down here. I'm doing self-talk as I do that from our language modeling. I think I'm looking, I don't see too much more. Let me just, okay, looking good. Yeah, so take care of yourselves. Don't push yourself too hard, and let those parents know that they do not have to be preschool teachers. They just need to be parents, and give them the freedom to enjoy their children. Help them. Maybe some of the things you ask them is like, what went well today? What funny thing did your child do? What was a good moment? Have them focus on the positive. In a way, this is terrible because we're separated and we're stressed, but this is an unprecedented opportunity to really check in with yourself, to really think about the things that really matter, enjoy those walks outside, or just enjoy the fact that you could have that second cup of coffee when usually you're running out the door. Validate yourselves and validate each other. And those of you who work in sites together, reach out to each other. You need each other just as much as the parents need you. Let's see. I've called parents during the past few weeks, and they tell me how much they value their child. I love that. I don't know how you do it with these kids at the center. I saw a funny thing. I think it was on Facebook. It's like, that's funny. The child never acted like that at school. That's what you usually hear from the parents. So. One idea of reorienting. I'm not sure what you mean. A time for connecting. Reorienting. Laura, Carl, I'm sorry, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by reorienting. Could you be more specific? Unless you're talking about bringing children back to the focus of materials or an activity. Still scrolling for anything else. You know what else I would suggest, and it sort of just occurred to me, I've been doing it for myself. I've been journaling. And maybe just journaling things at the end of your day, something that went well, something that challenged you, something that you learned, or something that you appreciated. Keep that journal because that might help you with some discussions with your kids when they come back, or just being able to reflect on this time. And if you see patterns of things that really went well for you with the parents or personally, those are things that you want to make sure that you repeat. Really, again, this is a time unlike any other where you really have time for reflection. Go onto our website and use those resources. There's so many things on there that help you. That they're ebooks and there's videos and there's webinars that are podcast. There's so many things that we want to offer you that cost nothing but your time. Got about 9 more minutes. Any ideas for parents to have at least a couple of minutes for themselves? Yeah. So one of the things I would suggest is allow the children to be a part of the routine and make sure that they have that daily flow. That's schedule. I, I don't know if schedule is the right word, but that predictable series of events. And so when those children are maybe helping pick up their toys or fold socks or unload the dishwasher or um, take the dog for a walk, find those quick moments. Or can they get up a little earlier or stay a little bit later where they can do some self-care? Is there any way that any of the family members could contribute to that as well? Toddlers are amazing people. I taught 2-year-olds for about 5 years and I just adore them. They need your connection as well, and they need to be busy. They need to have a lot of um, unstructured play where they can really experiment with life. So we don't want the parents to use too many batteries, right? We just give them open-ended materials and let them go and really help identify the feelings that they're having and connect with them. They need physical affection. They need connection. Still looking for answers. I'm so excited. I just love how many people we've got on this call. This is wonderful. Uh, so Kimberly, you're asking how often we should contact them. I think that's going to be an individual choice. And I would really look out for those children that you know are particularly needy may need a little more contact from you, but definitely some sort of regular routine, whatever works for your capacity because you're juggling a lot of things as well. What's your comfort level? I don't have a specific recommendation because I don't know you and I don't know your kids and what your relationships were before. And I do encourage you to keep in touch with your coworkers. Yeah, parents do a lot of screen time. They definitely do. So I want to thank Head Start for allowing us to do this webinar. And as Yvette said earlier, we're here for you and we're listening. I hope you can visit our Facebook page and join in. We're very happy to have you. Or you can go to Teachstone, also has a Facebook page as well. Join in and chat in the things that are going on, and we will be responsive to you and try to help you as you navigate this really interesting and unprecedented time. Thank you for all you do for children. The certificates, if you type into the chat, not the Q&A, you'll be able to find out information on that. And I do believe this is recorded. Most of the links that I did put in some resources for specific links, not just Teachstone, but just things that I've found to be really helpful. There's lots of groups that deal with helping children as they go through the day and through these days, and activities for parents, etc. I missed the part, a site where authors read. If you just Google authors read to children, you'll find it. It's just, type it into your search bar. I've got a couple of Facebook groups that I belong to help support teachers, and so they're pretty easy to find too. And I'm pretty sure they have a lot of YouTube videos where authors are reading to children. When you go into Facebook, if you type in class, the class, CLASS, or Teachstone, you should be able to find our group there. So I'm going to wish you all well. Stay safe, stay socially distant, wash your hands. Oh my gosh, that's the other thing I thought of. When you come back, or even with parents, washing hands can be a whole unit of study. Think about it. Think about how powerful that would be if we could get kids to learn to actually wash their hands. You could send them more than just the birthday song. There's lots of different ways to do that. I've always been a nut about hand washing because I did infection control training with my staff. At one point, I had a hospital center and I had 75 staff and 350 kids, and boy, did we talk about hand washing a lot. So Kimberly's asking, how can you have time alone with infants and toddlers if they need to stay stimulated? Infants and toddlers take naps, and toddlers particularly, if they're engaged in some tactile or activities or playing, when they're doing something interesting, and that open-ended play, that gives you a little time to sit. You don't have to be interacting with them every single moment. Children do better when they have some self-directed play too. We just want to make sure that we give them interesting materials and engaging activities. Oh, Laura, I'm so glad that you feel more connected. I really do appreciate this opportunity to talk with all of you, and I hope we can do it again real soon. As we close, I want to tell you why I love Head Start. In 1965, when Head Start started in the District of Columbia around Washington, D.C., I lived in the suburbs in Virginia, and I was 11 years old. Please don't do the math. And I had a pony. And Mrs. Sullivan was one of my neighbors, and she brought all the kids that she volunteered with at the Head Start Center to her home. It was a beautiful house in the woods, it had maybe 2 acres of trees, and she had beautiful gardens, and she was one of my favorite neighbors. And I brought my pony to let those kids ride. And when I fell in love with the kids, because they were so excited, some of them hadn't ever spent any time in a situation like that, and they'd never seen a pony. And that was the day that I determined that I was going to work with children, and it was because of Head Start. Somebody says, I help my children make Easter baskets for the younger cousins since they can't leave the house. Then I was going to deliver them. I drove by their house and dropped them off. What a wonderful, wonderful idea. I'm really excited that you all were so interactive and gave me so many good ideas and shared so many good ideas. We don't know everything at Teachstone, but we do know that relationships matter and interactions matter, and we know how to support you. And there's so many other resources out there, though I encourage you to look, but don't forget to visit our webpage. Yvette, did you want to chime in as we close? Is there anything you'd like to say? Totally putting you on the spot.
No, I will just say thank you, Mary-Margaret. I definitely took a lot from this, and just to share personally that while we're not all face to face and talking directly, just the amount of activity on both the Q&A box and the chat box, it just goes to show how important interactions and connections are. And then finally, I'll just say that throughout, I have been putting in links to different
Oh, good.
resources
Thank you.
as topics have come up. So hopefully folks will be able to access those. And if not, we will definitely make sure that folks get them. And I will just echo everything that you've said. Just want to thank everybody for their work. And if anybody needs anything, please feel free to reach out to us directly. We will be responsive and we are here for you. So thank you.